Welcome, last sons of... That's not right. It's not right. They're not the last son of Krypton. The last three criminals of Krypton. Two Geek Sales Retro Movie Review. Yes?
It's the last sons of Krypton.
There we go. And welcome to Geek Sales Retro Movie Reviews from the Geek Salad Podcast. I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
And tonight we are going to be covering not one, but two versions of Superman 2. We were off last week for Thanksgiving, as Mike adjusts his camera, so we can...
Yeah.
Better?
Not really, but we'll work
okay,
with
yeah, I just have to shift over where the lens is. So
yeah, same here.
I just hop over. So yeah, we are covering both versions of 1981's Superman 2, the theatrical cut, which is otherwise known as the Richard Lester version, and the 2006 release of the Richard Donner cut. So, little backstory, if you are unfamiliar with the tale of Superman 2, back in 1977, when they were filming Superman, the movie, they decided that what had worked for the Salkinds, the producers of the movies before, was that they were going to shoot both 1 and 2 back to back, just like they had done with the Musketeer movies. It had worked very well for them then, and really had no idea how it was going to work for a massively budgeted movie like Superman and Superman 2. They were very hands-on and very controlling over the whole thing. They get into a lot of arguments with Richard Donner, who was the original director of the Superman movies, and fired him halfway through filming Superman 2. Right. Now, they had enough footage to get Superman done, and it's the movie that we all know and hold dear to our heart. Superman the movie is one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. Superman 2 was supposed to be, another masterwork of Richard Donner's, but due to, in my opinion, there are certain things I will point to Lester on for his fault. A lot of this is the Salkinds. As we go through these, I believe that Salkinds and Pierre Spengler may be more to blame for the issues, not only that they caused, but of the theatrical release that we got. Yeah. So this was the first time in a long time that either of us have watched both versions, and both versions theoretically back to back within 48 hours of each other, right?
Yeah, I watched the Superman 2 on Tuesday.
Yeah,
and I watched the Donner version on Thursday. So
yes. Okay, first set of eyes here. Which tells the better story? They're the same movie, so it's kind of like but which one actually succeeded more in being the successor to Superman the movie?
For me, it's the Donner cut.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
It feels like it's still got the same tone as the original Superman, and it flows a lot. It cuts out a lot of extraneous stuff. It adds stuff that makes the story, I think, better. And yeah, I mean, they're not perfect movies. And quite frankly, neither is Superman the motion picture.
Yeah, there can be issues with Superman. There's no such thing as a perfect movie, in my opinion. Even my favorite movies. But I feel like, so coming at it from where I'm coming at it from, Superman 2 was the one that was always on HBO. When I was growing up, it was always Superman 2 because Superman, the movie, was so grandiose. It was barely ever on cable. It would usually show up as like the ABC movie of Sunday night movie, and you'd sit there for 3 hours and you'd watch it. And that's when they throw in all the extra little bits that you got. With Superman 2 was on HBO all the time. So, of course, people of my generation are going to think it's a better movie because they saw it more. And it's like, yeah, this is a better movie. And there are some things I like about this movie. I like the fact that Superman can fight somebody who's equally powered.
Yeah. I honestly, I kind of like Superman 2 more mainly because it does have what I tend to love, and that's
Yeah.
super villains fighting superheroes. I mean, him trying to stop missiles, planned by Lex Luthor is one thing, is great and all, but I want to see him punch someone.
That's completely understandable. I feel like the only person kind of holding his dignity throughout this whole debacle is Terrence Stamp.
I love
He
Terrence
made a
Stamp.
meal. He made a
Oh
meal
yeah,
out of Zod, and we
a
still,
big
to
meal.
this day, quote, "It's always Terrence Stamp's Zod. It's always kneel before Zod, son of Jor-El, kneel before Zod. You will bow down before me, you, and then one day your heirs."
Yeah.
It's really a lot of fun. He's a great villain. I love, compared to Michael Shannon's Zod,
Michael
especially.
Shannon's Zod is larger than life, but not in a good way. Terrence Stamp
Yeah,
is larger than life, but he's got like a dignity and a charisma that Michael Shannon just doesn't have.
right, exactly. I'm just amazed the studio thought to themselves, we want the guy who directed those Beatles movies to direct this picture. Kurt, we'll get to that in just a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Christopher Reeve in this movie was doing his best to just be a professional. I kind of feel like he didn't want to step on any toes, whereas Margot Kidder was pretty much would not work with Richard Lester, which, contractually she was obligated to finish this movie. But when Superman 3 comes around, and if you look at Superman 3, you can easily pick out the Lester bits of comedy in Superman 2, because that was his entire baby. And while Lois Lane is off reporting on an island somewhere, and Clark can go meet up with Lana Lang.
That was another thing I liked about Superman 2 is I think it portrayed both Superman / Clark Kent and Lois in a much stronger light.
Their relationship is better in this because it actually has a chance to blossom and a chance to actually be something. Now, when we compare the two cuts, it's easily the Donner cut. It gives him reason. They give him that monologue, which I can't understand why they would have cut it for the Lester version, where he is pleading with Jor-El. Put a pin in that. We're getting right to it. He is pleading with Jor-El that for what he has done nothing but give. He just wants this one thing for himself, and he can't have it. And it's because Marlon Brando got screwed out of, he was essentially, I signed for one movie. Yeah, but you told you we were filming the two movies. I signed for one movie. You get one movie out of me. So the clumsy Lara Jor-El scene, that weird Kryptonian scene.
Yeah, where it completely edits Jor-El out. It's like, just watching them, like, I remember this scene, and I remember Jor-El being front and center right there. Where the hell is he? It turns out Marlon Brando would have sued their asses.
Exactly, and I know that the Donner actually made an agreement with the Brando estate. It was a lot easier to make an agreement with the estate because Brando was dead at that point.
And this was like 2006, so so Warner Brothers had already kind of established the deal with Brando to use footage for Superman Returns.
Right.
So
right, and that's why we get this. And you can tell. I mean, the variation in the types of special effects that they used to bring Jor-El back were kind of janky. He's huge. He's tiny. He's normal sized. I really didn't have that much of a problem with it because it was still that father and son thing, versus bringing Lara in where it's just like this. My son, I must tell you now about Krypton's greatest enemy.
Yeah. Honestly, that scene, both by Lara and by Jor-El, I'm like, they just spent an entire scene explaining what we'd already seen happen like 5 minutes before. It's like,
Right.
yeah, they're the evil, Kryptonians who are trapped in the Phantom Zone. It might be freed by a nuclear explosion in space. Yeah,
Yeah.
we just saw that. We
Right.
literally
Exactly.
just saw that.
Which means that Clark was only basically paying attention to half of that because he was aware that they were around, but didn't think,
No,
hey, maybe if I throw a nuclear bomb into space.
no, that was to Lex Luthor.
Right. No, I know it was to Lex Luthor, but that was pre-recorded stuff. That is stuff
Oh yeah,
that Clark had probably heard before. But what I liked about the Donner stuff was that they added the images of the three and
yeah,
gave them more agency. There was that great. I mean, they gave them that great depiction at the very beginning of the first Superman movie, where they kind of talked about the heinousness of their crimes. And then when you go to the Lester version of Superman 2, what happens? First of all, Non goes over and just basically spins a guy's helmet.
yeah.
I mean, seriously, did you break his neck? You're just like, oh, now you can't see. Ha
Well, yeah,
They take a crystal and all of a sudden they're was that a booby trap?
One thing I did notice in the Donner cut that I don't remember seeing in the Lester version was when Zod says, "No one shall leave this town," and then he sees that kid riding away on a horse. Like, I mean, no one. And then Ursa just like throws something and that kills him. Like, I don't remember seeing that in the Lester version.
That was not in the Lester version. It did end up on the TV cut. Because I remember seeing that before. Yeah, where she's like, and he'll never be a man.
Yeah.
Um,
He was just
yeah,
a boy.
that was.
Yeah, and there'll never be a man.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Oh,
that was cold.
But the thing is it ties into the line that they had at the very beginning of Superman, where she was a threat to even the children of Krypton.
Yeah.
I liked, and this is, I'm going to blame Lester on this one, even though this could have been the Spenglers, the Salkinds, the grunting and he was a more effective killing machine.
Yeah.
In the Donner cut versus the that didn't make any sense. And even some of the ADR that they used in the Lester cut to have to explain stuff that we've already seen.
Yeah.
Like when Superman is dropping the antenna on Non, and there's like this 80-yard thing of Ursa, like, they've caged Non. Duh.
Oh, yeah, and there was like also during that fight, there was like an ADR by I think it was supposed to be by Zod, but it was like, that doesn't sound like Zod at all. You'd think if they would use an ADR voice, they would try to match it closer.
Oh, was it throw him?
No, because they used that in both. No, he said something earlier.
Okay.
And it's like it didn't even sound remotely like Terrence Stamp.
Yeah. All right. To get to the Lester stuff, that
No, I also really liked that in the Donner cut, not in the Lester stuff, when they were attacking the White House, Zod actually picks up a machine gun and starts shooting a few guys. Like, yeah, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. And that makes a lot more sense than them just like walking into the White House.
Yeah.
And E.G. Marshall, the perfect television president. I'm the president. Was that supposed to get an applause? I remember seeing this in the movie theater. I don't know if any of the kids that I went with, we're all 9. I don't think any of us remember like, oh, hey, that's E.G. Marshall.
And honestly, even if you knew who E.G. Marshall was, like, they didn't show the president, the president's face until that moment. But when you see, like,
it was supposed to be a celebrity reveal. It's almost like they should have gotten somebody else.
Yeah, and they had him in the opening credits. It's like E.G. Marshall is president. And then you see like the body double. I'm like, that's not E.G. Marshall.
Oh, let's talk about the opening credits. Oh my God. So the Lester cut is merely a previously on.
Yeah, it is literally like Donner should have got directing credits for that alone, because they use like 10 minutes of Superman 1 in the beginning of Superman 2.
I don't get it. I don't get the DGA rules for how you can get credit for a movie, because even the Lester cut is at least 50% Donner. Oh boy. The star of Creep Show, E.G. Marshall. That came out the next year, Kurt. Get your years right. That was 82. He was in, I believe he was in Being There. That was kind of like his big, yeah. Oh, Being There is a
Honestly,
great movie.
this is
Peter
probably one of the
Sellers.
only things I've seen him in.
Um, it's just like the whole. I like the opening of the Donner Cut much better because it felt like a Superman movie. It still gave you that grandeur that
Yeah.
we had gotten from that first movie. I love the opening credit sequence and something that Singer directly stole from, for Superman Returns.
Yeah. And that was really kind of one thing that I noticed in general is that the Donner Cut, it just seemed everything seemed to flow better.
It
Lester,
seemed to,
it
yeah,
felt a little like it felt a little bit like scene to scene to scene, whereas Donner just felt like it's a movie.
it's a better utilization of the talent that they had.
Yeah.
Now I had to watch that, remembering that they were able to do some. They were able to dump, I think, 10 million in for additional special effects. They put a not insubstantial sum to clean up some of the special effects and to clean up the film stock, because
And it
that
was
was the biggest thing. It was a restoration.
it was noticeable
This
too.
Yeah, this isn't the Snyder cut where they had to reshoot over 2 hours of movie, add all the special effects, rewrite things, and then 70 to $100 million later. This was definitely a little smaller. It felt more like a Star Wars special edition. So I'm willing to forgive things like the test footage that they used, like the rehearsal footage that they used
Yeah.
with Clark and Lois. I'm fine with that. The special effects did look better because the special effects in the Lester version, and again, it's almost like it's a Salkind movie. We can see exactly the point where they ran out of money because those special effects do not hold up.
So
Special
many
effects in
matte
Superman
lines.
hold up. These do not.
So many matte lines.
So many matte lines. You can see through things.
Yeah.
I still question that big like fruit roll up that he throws at Zod at some point in the S shape.
And they did use it once in the Donner Cut, but what the hell was that telekinesis point thing?
What is that? I've never seen Superman use that in my life. Never.
No,
And he doesn't even use it in this movie.
no, it was just the Kryptonians that used it, and
They but in the Donner Cut, they only use it against Superman. There's that scene in the town in the Lester cut where he drops that hillbilly
no,
onto
that was in
onto
the Donner Cut.
was
That
that?
was in
I
the
don't
Donner
remember that
Cut, and
being in the Donner Cut
they
because
didn't
I
use it
remember
against.
like okay, because I remember like I could see the I could kind of see the door that they were dropping him on
Oh
because
yeah,
it was just like a door covered with leaves. Oh, by the way, the kid in that town had a British accent. What was up with that?
uh,
You had Sheriff Pepper from the Bond movies in this town, but your kid is British. Please don't let me, Daddy.
yes. The worst thing about Live and Let Die and the Man with the Golden Gun. Hey, he's back.
How did Richard Lester either not direct a Bond movie, or how did John Glenn not direct this one?
Yeah.
I. It's yeah. The stuff with that, the reveal, um, the hey, I'm Superman reveal, so much better in the Donner Cut.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, they used test footage, and like you could tell because the glasses kept switching from one version to another.
And neither of them were his movie glasses.
No,
The best part of it, there are two different types of glasses, and neither of them was the right one.
yeah,
Um,
but I mean, the scene, like, one paints Clark to be the biggest klutz in the world,
hey,
and the
Clark, your
other,
hand didn't burn me when it went into the fire. Well, you got me, Lois. I'm Superman.
paints Lois as a legitimate good investigative reporter.
Yeah,
Oh, like you realize that if you'd been wrong, you would have killed Clark Kent with a blank.
yeah.
That was such a great scene.
I thought that was fantastic. I
Yeah.
love that. But that again, look, the other scene too. There's a scene when they're in that honeymoon suite, and then you've got the Simpsons did it better. with the guy
don't
who's just
throw
like,
away no Judge Wank Wank saying them
yeah,
all.
exactly. Hubba, hubba. That guy.
Yeah.
Where they're touring the thing, and it's just, it's like that's such a Lester joke. Getting to the Lester humor of this, it is front and center
Yeah.
in Metropolis, and
Oh, yeah.
not in a good way.
No.
I feel like there were scenes, and I know that they had to use some like of the Lester footage in the Donner cut just to kind of
Yeah.
make it seem okay. But
Yeah.
if there's a massive fight between four hyper super powered beings going on, you're like, you hungry? I'm hungry. There's a KFC in here. Those people were in and out long enough while this fight is going on. That's a decision you make. That isn't something that you do like, I'm walking out of KFC like, hey,
these fries are good. Whoa!
the the one that killed me, the one that's like, Richard Lester should stick to directing Beatles movies. Call back, Kurt. Is the guy in the phone booth. He's blown over. He's still having his conversation and laughing while this monsoon of wind is like blowing people away. Yes, I too love watching red vested roller skate guy getting blown backwards because this is a 70s thing. But it's just like the gags that they use for that with like the wigs and the toupees and all. It's, this isn't supposed to be a moment of humor. Superman just abandoned everybody. Or no, he hadn't abandoned them yet. No, they thought he was dead because, we've seen him take on bullets, but a bus landing on him, that killed him. So the idiots of Metropolis, like,
hey, these guys are just destroyed Superman who can destroy everything else. Let's try and beat him up.
I got this traffic cone. Let's do this.
I know some judo. That'll work.
Oh my God. It just, and that I think is the biggest obstacle of the Lester cut. Besides your special effects look lousy, your producers managed to piss off the all of the major stars. You can tell the Hackman stuff is all in the Donner version.
Yeah.
There is some ridiculousness where they just use his voice, but you can tell it's a body double in certain things.
Yeah,
Smocker vanishes.
Yeah, because Hackman refused to come back.
Yeah, and he had every right to. I mean, he's still one of the shining beacons in this movie series.
I like Hackman in this, but I mean the Lex Luthor from the first movie was a criminal genius. The Lex Luthor from this movie is a complete moron. It's like,
well,
hey,
yeah,
there are three guys with all the powers of Superman, but none of the morals. Let's get in hit with him because they'll never kill me.
Right, and I think that was supposed to be his. He overestimated. And I do like that though. The whole thing about that Superman. Thank God.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, if Lex Luthor was really a criminal genius, he would have grabbed some kryptonite before he went in there. And it's like, oh, you gotta get. Okay. Guess what, guys? Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna deal.
Yeah, Miss Tessmacher, what happened to that kryptonite that you threw off of Superman?
Miss Tessmacher, where'd you go?
Where'd she go?
She vanished like after 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I enjoy him in both of these movies. Not at all in Superman 4 because that.
Wait.
Where do we back this truckload of money up to, Mr. Hackman?
Wait,
put it over there.
Superman 4?
I
don't remember Superman 4. No,
that's right.
There's no Superman 4. I don't know what you're talking about. Doesn't exist. No.
Okay. So it's one of these things that you can. It's a movie that, I know a lot of people who still hold Superman 2 in this pristine greatness, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're not familiar with the story. They've never seen the Donner cut. They don't know. I mean, I hate to say it, it's the curse of being a film nerd sometimes, is that when I watch things like this and I know things like this, I told my daughter about like this. I'm like, do you want to hear, because she asked me what we were reviewing. And I said, we're doing both versions of Superman 2. She's like, there's both versions. And I'm like, let me tell you a little story. She's like, oh, do tell. She loves when productions are a shit show.
Yeah.
And
this was a big old shit show.
This was a huge shit show.
I do love Superman 2. But just going back and rewatching it, I was like, oh, yeah, nostalgia helped this movie a lot, and
it does. This movie does not hold up. The villains are cool. Again, they are better in the Donner cut. They have more agency in the Donner cut. None is a killing machine in the Donner cut. Yeah. And we were talking about another scene too, and I think it was more like Lester filmed it, but it was in the Donner script. It was supposed to be filmed anyway. Was the moon stuff where Gravity has its own set of rules.
Yeah, Gravity has its own set of rules. Like they're talking on the moon. This was filmed in 1977. They even back then they knew, sound doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Yep. Unless this was shot on the same set that Kubrick shot the moon landing. Hey, I did appreciate that we got a good John Ratzenberger cameo in this movie.
I didn't notice, and also I in the when I was watching the Lester version, during the whole French bomb threat thing.
Yes, Richard Griffiths.
Yeah, I was like, that looks like Mr. Dursley.
It is.
Damn it, that was Richard. That was Richard Griffiths. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing that drove me nuts about the Lester cut too. Was instead of just the Superman thing coming out of nowhere with Lois, now she's starting to question, and not even starting to question. It comes up at Niagara Falls. It's not a thing that lingers. It's not this beeline story, B story thread that goes through the first and second act of the movie, which brings you to the climaxes. It's something that just kind of happens because we had to spend time in France because Lord knows, let's take 15 minutes out of this movie to laugh at the French. And their incompetent, les incompetents police squad.
Yeah.
Superman in the comics says the time and ability to hear through space and see people's souls with his X-ray vision. Talking to the moon ain't crazy. Okay. You know what, Kevin? I have heard crazier Superman theories. And that's the thing is, I haven't read all of them. That does make sense, though. I'll grant you that does make sense. And realistically, it wasn't one of the things when I was watching this, Mike, that I was really questioning. I don't know why. It's just like one of those. It's one of those things that I'm willing to give a pass to when we're talking about like explosions in space.
Yeah.
Star Wars is one of my favorite movies. You can't hear explosions in space. It's but hey, Death Star blows up. Yeah. I'm cool with that. No, the craziest Superman thing actually comes from our friend Mike C.
Oh yeah.
And it's the whole.
I know where you're going. Where you're going.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike. I have to reveal this one. I'm sure he heard it from someone else, but the reason why no one can see that Clark Kent and Superman are the same person is because Superman vibrates Superman vibrates his face ever so slightly.
Yeah. That's why you can't take a clear picture of him.
That's true. And apparently that's also how he shaves, because we saw that happen in Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Well, when you have Gillette razors as one of your sponsors.
Oh yeah, that's nothing about this movie. So much product placement. So much.
I know there was some in Superman the movie. I mean, to be honest, the last time I saw Superman the movies when we saw it in the theater 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But Coke, Well, Coke was
KFC.
the big one. KFC. I think there was cigarettes.
Oh,
Was it
Marlboro, yeah.
Marlboro? Yeah. Oh, product placement in the movie. Superman the flamethrower.
Comes from your eyes.
All right, one of the funniest things in the movie, it always makes me laugh, before we move on to our thoughts, our final thoughts on this, was when they're hitting the fuel, the gas tanker,
Hmm.
and Superman's going to use his cooling breath, and it's just like this weird little bounce and a hands on his hip.
Yeah.
It's like, is this the position you have to take to do the cold breath when the dumb one flies into the giant signs beyond? Yeah. I will say, though, the one thing that I thought was pretty cool was when, and I think this might have been a copper tone. It was either copper tone or cigarettes. I don't remember
Copper
because
tone.
it was copper tone. Okay, because back in the day, you couldn't distinguish between a copper tone ad and a cigarette ad. I'm old. Was when he grabbed the mirror and shot it back at Zod.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, that was a cool effect.
That was a very cool effect.
I liked that a lot. But you said something about in the town when Ursa is using her breath.
Yeah.
Which was, and please, because I can't remember exactly what you said.
Yeah, well, when Zod says they need machines to fly, blow them a kiss.
Blow them a kiss.
So she blows down the helicopter. Meanwhile, the smoke that's in front of them doesn't move an inch. He's like, and it's enough to blow the helicopter.
Pilot!
And the smoke just nothing.
Well, it's just like the flags when they're flying to Earth, and Nan's got the two flags and he throws them. Instead of them flying into space, they just land on the lunar lander.
It's like when Ursa like knocks that guy down. When Ursa like rips his suit, he just kind of boom.
Yeah,
just throw it flat.
And then it's almost like he was being reminded. Oh, by the way, your body is overheating and expanding right now. Do something. It's like, oh, okay, and she just kicks him off into space. When gravity does work. There's a lot of that in there. I will say one of my favorite parts of the beginning of the movie is when they keep cutting back to the Phantom Zone. And it's almost like every single shot is the back, like the track list and the Phantom Zone R, General Zod vocals. Like every single shot of that looks like the back of a record. It's just like the band thing. Like Nan is just like. And then they do another one. They're just kind of like crammed in. And again, here's your track list, side A and side B. Yeah, it's crazy because there are things that work about this movie. I just, I feel bad that we couldn't have gotten the Superman 2 that I feel like that not only Richard Donner deserved to really make this movie and not have to cobble it together from test footage after.
Yeah, I will say one thing. I texted you about this last night after I watched the Donner cut. They left in a scene at the very end that makes Superman out to be the biggest asshole ever.
Yep.
He after he's traversed time, he flies back to that diner. So, but he's already reversed time, which means that the trucker did absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So Superman just shows up. Nobody knows who he is. He just picks a fight with this guy, wipes the floor with him, and then leaves for no reason whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, granted, the trucker's probably an asshole anyway, but
he did something in life to deserve that. But now and that's the funny thing too, is that ending. And this is when it was clear that Donner was not coming back to finish 2. They used the ending that they wanted for 2 in 1.
Yeah. And actually, you know what? I love that part of Superman 2 more than I like. I mean, and but the Donner cut than the Lester cut, because the Lester cut. This is what I really hated, is because it made Lois to be a so much weaker and less strong character. It was like, I hate coming back here. I can't talk to you. And, so she
Yeah.
kisses her, makes her go like. But in the Donner cut, she's like, I'll try not to be as mean to you. She's like, she's putting on a brave face. Superman can see that, but he doesn't want her to suffer, so it's his choice to reverse it. And
Right.
it's not because I can't do it. I can't take it. No, it's like I'll get through this. He's like, I don't want you to have to suffer for this.
Yeah.
And makes both of their characters into a better people.
Exactly, and I don't know what the ending for one could have been, because we'll never know at this point, because they had to slot that in there. Yeah. They loved that so much that they had to use it, and they'll just use roofie kiss. Check. Yeah. That makes sense, and we'll do a gag about the fresh squeezed orange juice afterwards.
Yeah.
Richard Lester must have been on a health kick or something. That's the only reason why that whole orange juice gag was in there, because it only shows up in the Lester cut.
They mentioned it in the Donner cut, when Niagara Falls, why don't you go get me a hot dog? Okay, hot dog, and some orange juice.
Yeah, and orange juice, freshly squeezed. Yep, but they didn't do the whole gag with Clark getting his thumb.
Okay.
With the bone cracking sound, which shows up a lot in the Lester cut.
Yeah.
Like, people would just get their hands jammed into vice-like situations all the time. Now, another thing that really threw me on the Lester cut, I didn't realize that John Williams didn't do the score. He provided the theme, but that is not his score.
No, that was. Let me see. I got it here.
But if I'm not mistaken, I believe Williams is credited for Donner.
Yes, he is. In fact, I wouldn't at all put it past him to have actually had Williams rescore the whole thing.
Either that, or just here are the tracks that I had ready. This.
Yeah, but the Lester one is credited to Ken Thorne.
Ken Thorne.
Yeah.
I'm taking a look at Ken Thorne's IMDb right now. He did music for Superman 3. U571, really interesting. And a whole lot of Bible movies.
Yeah, in the Magic Christian.
Yeah. I see this one movie poster here for a movie called The Age of Treason, where is that Brian Brown?
Well, I see why he got the job to do the Lester cut, though, because he also did the score for Help.
Makes sense then, yeah. So he was a Lester buddy.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. What it is. Again, I much more enjoy the Donner cut. I think we both do at this point.
Yeah, it just flows so much. In fact, another thing that they completely cut out of the Donner and the Lester cut because they had to, because they didn't have Mark Brando, was how Superman got his powers back.
That's true.
He sees the green crystal, and then the next time we see him, he's full Superman again. Whereas in this one, he sees the crystal, and then Jor-El pops up and he's like, "Yeah, this is what we got to do. I'm not going to talk to you again because I'm using everything for you."
Yeah. And it was the ultimate sacrifice. And again, it just makes more sense.
Yeah,
folks, this is my parting words on this. If you have not yet seen the Richard Donner cut, find a way. I know you can rent it on Amazon. Is that what you said?
Well, in fact, that's what I did, because I figured it would $5.99 was better than trying to dig out my copy.
Yeah. No, I have the DVD in the box of steel. I was
I mean,
worried I didn't have it because I loaned it to somebody. I did get it back, and my son and I watched it, and
yeah, you
it's
can.
it's fun. It's still Superman 2. It's still better than 3 and that one that escapes me.
Yeah,
The
no
Quest
idea.
for Something. The canon picture.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Doesn't that star Helen Slater?
No, but that is the Salkind production.
Yeah.
Damn you, Salkinds.
And I love Supergirl too, so that one movie really hurts me because that's a really great character that just pissed away.
And I love Peter O'Toole.
Yeah,
And
when he's sober and especially when he's drunk, which is
well,
most of the
yeah,
time.
exactly. He's the greatest of both. Ha-ha! So anyway, that was Superman 2. We'd love to know your thoughts. Have you seen the Donner cut? What are your thoughts? Which one of these is better? Leave a polite comment below. If you like what you see here, don't forget to subscribe. We do this every week, except for last week and most holidays. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a big thumbs up. That helps us in the algorithm. Mike and I also host a little podcast called Geek Salad. You can check that out wherever you get your podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes. We are on all of those, Google Podcasts especially. If you are on iTunes, Supergirl is Helen Slater. Yes. No, I know, but Peter O'Toole was in it.
Yeah,
I didn't think. I was
said
implying
Helen
that
Slater,
Peter O'Toole was Supergirl, Kurt.
I said to Helen Slater, didn't I?
I thought you did.
Yeah. No. And while it should have been, it was spelled Nuclear Man. It was pronounced Nuclear Man.
Nuclear Man. I will hurt people.
By Mark
You
Pillow.
want to talk about a complete dereliction of how the physical world works? It's the outer space scenes in Superman 4: The Quest for Peace.
To this day, I've still never seen Superman 4, and I have intention on ever watching it.
Oh my god, it's awful. It is really awful.
With starring Mark Pillows as Nuclear Man, who
yes,
if that's not a porno name, I don't know what is.
You know what? I'm shocked that we whatever. I can't even finish that sentence. So anyway, yeah, check us out. If you are on iTunes, give us a 5-star review. Why? Because we love you. And it's also the only thing that counts in the podcasting world. If you want to follow us on the socials, we are on Twitter at Geek Salad Radio. We are on Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast. Oh no, Kevin, you may have given Kurt a terrible.
I really don't want to watch that movie. I really don't. I try to go out of my way to avoid bad movies unless they're done by MC3K.
Yeah. Oh boy. We may have opened up a can of worms, but we'll come to that later. We've got other things to talk about, but I got to finish our socials because we're also on Hive and Mastodon, also at Geek Salad Radio, and on Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast. So next week we kick off, kind of a week late, but whatever. We are going to kick off our Christmas movie season, and Mike came up with a great idea. And this is a very interesting idea because it only involves one of us not having seen the movies, and that person is Mike. So we have picked movies that will fill the month of December, Christmas movies.
He's talking about Superman 4.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, that's I agree with that, Kevin. I definitely agree with that. I don't know why my mind just stalled for a second. Like, is it? Yeah, no, it is. But yeah, we are going to be talking about Christmas movies that Mike has not seen.
Right.
And we are going to kick it off next week with a brand new movie that came out. I watched it last week. So technically speaking, this is a movie that Mike hasn't seen. And we are going to start it off with 2022's A Christmas Story Christmas, or as I like to call it, A Christmas Story.
Yeah. The sequel to one of my all-time favorite Christmas movie.
Yes. It is the official sequel. Let's just put it that way. It is the only official Christmas Story sequel. So we'll be talking about that next week. I look forward to having this conversation because I know how much you love A Christmas Story. So I
Yeah.
really can't wait to get your input on it. And I haven't shared any of my thoughts on it on social media because I want to hold off for this one. So we've got a few of these coming up throughout the month of December. Can't wait to have those conversations. So until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
Go forth and be nerdful. We will see you later.
Bye bye.